A big hello to all our viewers. I hope you all are doing good. I'm Anurag, your host for the series, and I welcome you to Raspod, a sourcing podcast with brilliant minds in headhunting. I'm sure you've enjoyed our previous episodes and already caught up with the latest trends in recruitment and talent sourcing. Here we are, the third episode of Raspod with a new guest, a wizard sourcer, a top-ranked technical talent sourcing recruiter, staffing expert, and corporate trainer who assists organizations of all sizes in identifying and attracting top talent. An absolute wizard harnessing the power of social networking, Boolean strings, search aggregators, deep web searching, scrapers, and other advanced technology tricks and tools. In 2015, he founded a recruiting blog called Wizard Sourcer, which has now become one of the leading knowledge resources for recruiters online. His mission is simple: to help recruiters and talent sourcers stay updated on the latest sourcing trends within our community. He has worked in talent sourcing and recruiting with companies like Amazon, Vista Outdoor, CA Technologies, American Express, and many others. A sought after speaker and mentor, he has trained teams around the globe on best practices on sourcing and recruiting top talent. He writes regularly on the latest recruiting trends of his own top ranked blog at Wizard Sourcer, in addition to being a contributing writer for AI recruiting platform HireRitual. So, all my lovely viewers, we have Jonathan Kidder with us.
Hey, Jonathan, welcome to Raspod, sourcing podcast with brilliant minds in headhunting.
Good to be here.
Great. So, Jonathan, while we jump into the questions immediately, I just wanted to understand that our viewers would love to know that about you first. So, what's your story? How did you get into sourcing? How was it easy for you, or was it by an accident, which most of our guests have said?
Yeah, exactly right. It's kind of a an accident for most people, but for me, I went to school. I went to university local to Minnesota, and I went for marketing communications too. So I love to talk to people. I love to present to people, and I wanted to do something in relation to that. So I took some HR related classes, some business related classes, but I was kind of like, it was a big question mark for what I wanted to do after I graduated too. So I ended up taking a social media internship through a company called Allegis Global Solutions. And they happen to be the largest staffing company in the US. So they're part of the Baker's Dozen within the US. And when I started there, I was focused on employment branding, social media, driving people to apply to jobs. I was really focused on ads within social media. And I got to sit with a local team, and I saw the recruiters, how they engaged people on the phone. And I just fell in love with that. After I saw them on the phone and what they were doing every day, they were sourcing, they were it was really just kind of a fun team to kind of witness their day-to-day duties. So from there, I told my manager, "Hey, I want to jump into sourcing recruiting," and that's how I got started in talent acquisition too, as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for taking those decisions, because that's how we got our wizard sourcer that we call.
That's right. And for me, both my parents are in kind of the teaching kind of arena. So my mom was a teacher for 30 years. And my dad worked at a university majority of his career. And I just had a passion for training others and teaching others. And it morphed well into sourcing too, because I love to kind of train others on new teams. And really that's how I got started, just based on my parents and them being teachers too as well.
Wonderful. Yep. So now you worked with both into recruitment agencies and also Fortune companies as well. So how different do you feel that these sourcing approaches for these two are? What challenges do one face when it's a Fortune company? Because when you have a brand to sell, then you have candidates who are up to coming to you. But when recruitment agencies take over, there's a little bit of challenges that you guys face, right?
Yeah. So first, I started at an agency too as well. So I understand the the differences from agency to in-house corporate talent acquisition teams to agencies. You get a new role, and maybe you get it on Monday, and it's a contract role. You're expected to fill it by that week. So it's kind of quick turnarounds. Lots of the hiring managers are just desperate to fill roles, and maybe they have a contract for 30, 60, 90 months, and or 90 days, excuse me. And you're just kind of expected to do kind of a quick turnaround. So agency life is more quick. Whatever you have in your pipeline, you try to commit, you try to build a really quick pipeline. You send those leads to your agency or hiring manager or client, get them to kind of review it. And it's kind of a quick turnaround in sourcing versus in-house corporate. They're willing to take their time too. So if it takes several months, it's a totally different process. It's slower. They're willing to kind of wait just because when they do hire someone, it's full-time usually, and they just have different priorities at stake in relation to that too. So for agency, I was getting maybe a dozen hires a month without even trying, and then versus in-house, maybe you get one or two a month. So it's a totally different process in that sense.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Perfect.
Well, Jonathan, in one of your books, you emphasized on talent sourcing tools, right? So, but every sourcer cannot get access to these paid tools that are available in the market. Do you think it's a showstopper for a sourcer if they don't have these paid tools, or is there any way around it?
That's a good question too. And I have that dilemma too as well. So there's sometimes where I sign up for a tool and they give you a 2-month trial and then you're locked out. So there's ways around that. I have several emails that I use to kind of work around that. And when you're starting out, you have a shoestring budget. You don't have that much money. So you might have to do demos and just do the free tools. There's a lot of different free tools that you kind of use, but the best tools, if you want to be kind of the top producer, you're going to have to kind of pay for those tools, unfortunately, too, as well. So I would go to your leadership team and just say, hey, in order for me to be successful in my role, I need to have at least one or two kind of contact finding email automation tools for me to kind of be successful too as well. And most people are willing to kind of change their budget to. A lot of people have shifted from posting on job boards to using that money for internal sourcing teams. So you'd be kind of surprised to kind of hear that. But there are free tools. I've listed them out on my blog, wizardsourcer.com. So take a look at that. I've got a resource page focused on tools. So, but in regards to kind of like the top tools, the top 5 tools, I do pay kind of monthly fees in order to kind of use them. So it's kind of unfortunate, but that's the way it is too as well.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, yeah. And nowadays with these tools come in a lot of email cadences and messaging cadences that we can run through these tools. So my next question aligns with that messaging and talent engagement, they're like key and lock. They're incomplete without each other. So however adequate our talent pipeline is, if you don't build it, it's not well engaged, it's of no use, right? So what are your thoughts on outreach automation versus personalized manual outreach?
Yeah,
what is more efficient rather?
It's a combination of both too. So you could certainly kind of build a list and start by doing mail merging. So pick a list from Excel and maybe a list of 50 potential leads, and you could do kind of a mail merge and just kind of test out your emails. And I recommend starting with a 3 sequence. So send them kind of introduction, send them a more concrete, like here's what the team is doing, and then send them kind of a final follow-up like, hey, sorry to bother you. This is my last reach out. Maybe you didn't see my other 2 messages, but create that email sequence when you are kind of mail merging too as well. Do that, I wouldn't do more than 50 too, because after you hit above 50, email deliverability kind of becomes a concern too as well. So that's kind of the free way I would do that. You could do it within Microsoft Excel to do a mail merge too. And on my website, if you're looking for recruiter template examples, I've got a list of about 50 that I've used, sequences that I've used in the past too as well. So I would do that. And then on top of that, while you're doing mail merging, use LinkedIn, use other platforms to kind of reach out to people too as well. And I have better luck with just sending them a connection request and waiting till their green bubble pops on LinkedIn, and then sending them a message. Usually they respond quick to that versus if you just send them a LinkedIn message, they get so many and they don't respond as much. So I've noticed that with this really competitive market too. I used to get maybe 30 to 40% acceptance rate within LinkedIn Recruiter, and that's gone down too as well. And I think just because the market is so competitive in that sense. So so instead of using LinkedIn Recruiter, I would go email mail merge and then just connect with them directly on LinkedIn and see if they respond that way too as well.
Wonderful. So with what you just said, a lot of things depend on LinkedIn. So every sourcer has to depend a large part of his sourcing activities through LinkedIn, right? So I'd asked this question to one of our previous guests, but I'm desperate to ask it to you as well. You wake up someday and there's no LinkedIn. What would you say to it?
That's a good question to kind of ask too. And I would say there's so many other websites out there too, especially focusing on your niche too. So there's Meetup, there's Facebook groups, there's Facebook profiles that you can kind of X-ray and search, Twitter, and then it depends on your industry too. So for me, for tech, I'm using Stack Overflow, GitHub, Angel Co, Meetup, Reddit subreddits. I mean, HackerRank has their own profiles that you can look for. And on top of that, people do still post blogs. They post their own personal websites if they are, in a certain niche. So like graphic designing or, developing or anything related to online portfolios, they're going to have information on Google too as well. So Google is a great resource too as well.
Yeah, awesome. Now, there's this question, Jonathan, that you've written so many books, and we would just like to ask you. You can skip this question if you want, but which book is your favorite? I mean, if he asked you to pick one of your books as a dearest, which one would that be?
That's such a good question too. And I would say, why did I create books? I saw kind of a need for, when I looked online, there's a couple different core books like Full Stack Recruiter and Robot Recruiter. There's a couple other ones that I've recommended, but that's kind of it. So for such a large industry, you would think that there would be more kind of specialized books out there. So during the pandemic, everything shut down. And unfortunately, with that, I had a lot of free time and I enjoy reading books at night or listening to podcasts. I don't really watch too much TV. So I had a ton of free time to write books. So I picked kind of the core categories like contact finding tools, tech recruiting, email engagement, just those different categories. And I wrote books in relation to categories that people always Google or ask on Facebook groups, like, what about this? Or what's the best contact finding extension? I tried to create different books in relation to that. So kind of my favorite book is probably the diversity recruiting book. It breaks down Boolean strings, different communities, how to engage people online. And I've had so many people reach out to me after they purchased that book, just thanking me for all the resources that I added in the book. So it's a great read. It's a quick read, but definitely it's beneficial too as well.
Awesome. So I know which book to pick next when I read your books.
Good. So yeah, that was kind of the motivator for me, was COVID for writing the book series. And a lot of things have changed post-COVID, but something that I really wanted to do was write a few books, and I was able to do that during that downtime.
Great. And while you were writing these books, how was the journey from conceptualizing this thing, the book, to finding the publisher?
Yeah, so for me, I self-published. So it's kind of interesting. You could do that directly on Amazon, and really, they've got some policies where you need to make sure it's edited correctly, and they have a team that reviews it, and you can kind of self-publish. The only downside is that when you self-publish, Amazon takes a big chunk of the profits. So I don't really make too much on the actual books. It's more about personal branding and getting kind of the word out and sharing too as well. I really enjoy training others, sharing knowledge. That's what gets me motivated to do my job too as well. So even for my core job, sourcing, that's really important, but I get to train internally to many different teams at my current employer. I enjoy that more than actual day-to-day sourcing too as well.
That's really good. Yeah, great. So let's come back to our sourcing trends. With this changing world, what is changing in our current market? Or do you have any predictions that how sourcing can look like in the days to come?
Yeah, so I would say what's interesting is some companies are pushing for people to come back into the office, and the market, and still when I talk to people, they are demanding fully remote still. So that should be interesting to see what will happen a year to 2 to 3 years from now. But I think it's going to be kind of a split. So some employers will just have to do like hybrid, where hey, you're still in the same location, city that we have an office, but you can come in or be remote. So it's going to be interesting to see what changes in the market too, because majority of people I still talk to want to be fully remote versus coming into an office too as well. And then another thing I'm seeing, people are getting less into getting full 4-year degrees too as well. A lot of people are doing boot camps, startups. They're learning on Google instead of going to kind of a 4-year degree. So in the future, maybe I see more people getting more specialized boot camp degrees versus doing kind of a 4-year degree as well. So, but yeah, lots of things are at stake too. I know it's kind of a bullish market too. The stock market in the US isn't doing so hot currently. So we'll have to see what changes in the next 6 to 12 months too as well.
Yep. You have to look forward to it. Yeah, while you was just emphasizing on this market being pretty busy right now, and that has like in turn made a recruiter's calendar very busy, right? So I want you to shed some light on time management or any tools or other advice that how we can manage this busy calendars.
Yeah. So first off, I track my web searching history. I've got a app that I use that I forgot the name of it, but basically it tracks everything I'm doing every day, and it kind of breaks down, okay, here's the time you spent on this site or on social media. So I get kind of a weekly breakdown of what I'm doing online. So that's really helpful. And then on top of that, for sourcing, I really focus on calendar time blocking. So every day I kind of break down maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, like, hey, I need to focus on these roles. Here's my priority. And I'm going to put this on my calendar and I'm going to stick to it. So during that hour, I don't respond to emails, to messages, to Team Slack updates, or look on any other website. I solely focus on sourcing too. So I focus on building strings and creating different projects. And that's my first part. I focus on project building, pipeline building, for kind of maybe that hour, 2 hour stand. And then from there, I put it in kind of an Excel list. And then I focus on engagement, maybe for the next hour, focus on my email sequencing. Here's the 3 emails I'm going to send to these lists of people. Here's my response rates. And then kind of course, I track who responded, who did not respond, and how can I kind of improve on that. So really it's down to kind of time management, it's down to time blocking my calendar every single day. What am I doing? What's causing me to lose focus throughout my day too, because it goes so fast too, and I've got so many openings and so much priority too as well. So I would say that's the number one thing as recruiters is kind of goal setting too. So at the end of the day, I get a sheet of paper and I write down kind of a check mark what I want to do for the following day, like talk to this person, email this hiring manager, follow up with this person. I kind of have that as kind of a cheat sheet every day. So when I go right to my desk, I know, oh, here's what I need to focus on right away. And then I look at my calendar and either, oh, I've got these 4 or 5 phone screens set up for today. And then on top of that, I'm going to source for these next 2 hours, put on some good music, and just kind of build that pipeline too as well. So, but that's the number one thing for recruiting is time management and then goal setting too as well.
That's perfect. And you just mentioned something on focusing on sourcing, right? So I've seen some of our junior sourcers right now here. What they do is they just switch off their mobile phones while they are sourcing. But you just also mentioned that you listen to some good music while sourcing. Uh, uh,
Exactly.
how does that help? My junior sources would be very eager to know about it.
I listen to more kind of ambient techno or just light music where it's kind of has the same bass. And
Mhm.
like I listen to like Apex Twin, or there's a couple other bands where it's just 2-3 hour songs, and it's just focused on kind of music. And I think it just puts me in the zone to just focus on that. It makes me cut out background noise too when I've got dogs, and don't want to get distracted too. So it helps me too. So there's other ways. Some people maybe, they don't need that, but I do like that, just to kind of focus in on here the next 2 hours. I'm just going to focus on sourcing, and I'm not going to respond to any messages or anything else that my team might send me to as well. So I'm really 100%, in the zone as well. So it's helpful too. But yeah, if it's you've got a mobile device and you check Facebook or you check your text messages or anything else, I would turn that off and just focus on what do you want to accomplish for today. Like today, I want to reach out to this many people, and I want to do this amount of screens, and then I just kind of break that down on an average per week. How many phone screens did I do? How many reach outs did I do? Who responded? And how many people are in my pipeline too as well. So that's always
Mhm.
really important to have that.
Yeah, certainly. And now, coming back to recruitment, right? So recruitment is all about candidate experience right now. So, what kind of tips do you have to creating a great experience for your candidates? How to improvise on the candidate experience?
I would say number one is candidate experience is so important too as well, because you go on Facebook groups, you go on chats, and they said, "Oh, this candidate ghosts me. They never got back to me. What do I do?" And there's a couple of reasons for that. First, it's setting clear expectations with the candidate about your process. Here's the deadlines. Here's when I'm gonna reach out back to you. If you have questions, reach out to me at any time. I'm here 24/7. Try to kind of build that almost like a customer service line for
Hmm.
that particular candidate. Make them feel valued, make them feel special. Call out their name too as well. People like to hear their name as well. So over phone calls or Zoom calls, I always like to bring it up, mention their name a few times too, and then follow up with them over email. Like, here's the next steps. I need you to do this, and if they don't do everything, follow up with an email like, can you do this for me by Friday? And just kind of build that too as well. So that's number one. And then throughout the process, if they do a first phone screen, they don't make it, let them know. Give them a call or send them a rejection email, just thanking them for their time, because it is quite a strenuous process too, because they have to dedicate a few hours of their day to do kind of a phone screen with you or with one of your interviewers. So that's really important. And then on top of that, for the final round, just letting them know the process. What happened? Did they get the role? Did they not? And let them know, hey, within 2 to 3 days after your final round, I will call you. I will let you know what happened, and then we'll go from there too as well. So really, it's just kind of building a process. I know each individual recruiter would have their own kind of process for that, but for me, treating them like a human being, treating them, empathetic, being kind is going to be really important too. So for me, I will never really have anyone ghost me too. I think people would feel bad as well. So that's something to kind of think about too as well. Are people ghosting you, or they're not responding back? What are you doing wrong in your process too as well?
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Wonderful. Yeah. So, Jonathan, thank you so much. That was so helpful. Another question that I had is like, now that Rent a Sourcer is organizing this podcast as Raspod. So, what do you think about organizations like Rent a Sourcer who ought to give it back to the community with talent sourcing as a separate function, and how important it is?
Yeah. So, in regards to like full cycle recruiting to just talent sourcing, I would say it is such a specialized skill set that it makes sense to kind of split it up too. So, because sourcing is so competitive, they have so many opportunities in this market. So, I would say if it's an agency or in-house team, it makes sense to just have someone fully focused on sourcing. So maybe you have one or two sourcers, and then you have full cycle recruiters that just kind of walk them through kind of the final steps, final stages of recruiting. But I would say I'm all about that, splitting that up because it is such a specialized skill. That's really important too. And then on top of that, I would say sourcing, you almost need to be, almost need to have a few years of experience, just understanding how to kind of pipeline, how to engage people, how to get people to respond. So a lot of companies consider sourcing to be more of a junior role, but I would flip that and say it's actually more, you need to have more experience in that. So just because it is such a challenge to get people to respond back in this market. So, so yeah, hopefully that answers kind of your question there too as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again, Jonathan. This was so insightful, and we'd love to follow you for more insights. So, any upcoming books or events that you have that our viewers should watch out for?
Yeah, I'm about to release a book in the next couple months called Launch Your Recruiting Career. So I really want to focus on writing a book about, hey, here's the fundamentals of being a good recruiter. And, you really don't need to have a degree or experience in the field to be successful. So I'm going to be kind of working on a book that just relates to that too, because I feel like there's many industries where someone maybe from sales or hospitality or even teaching can become a recruiter too as well and be successful. So, yeah.
Yep, I'm very sure salespeople can, because I myself have worked in sales, and I know that that primary research and secondary research goes hand in hand with what you do at sourcing. So,
Yep.
all the very best for this particular book, and then we look forward to having it in our hands as soon as possible.
Awesome. And on top of that, check out my website called wizardsourcer.com. I blog every couple months, and I've got a lot of good resources on those pages too as well. So make sure to check out my blog, wizardsourcer.com.
Yeah, sure. I'd like to let my all of my viewers know that just type in Wizard Sourcer on Google and you'll find him, Jonathan. Right.
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
This was super awesome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for being our third guest, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And then hopefully, all of your wisdom that you've shared on this particular podcast series would be taken on note by all of our visitors, and it'll help them in their recruiting or their sourcing careers.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. You have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.